What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the overall market so far. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as the market's going, there is still weakness. We tried to bounce a little bit once we got our manufacturing numbers, as the manufacturing PMI report was very close to expectations, and employment was still solid. So I would say overall, decent looking numbers. The market did like the data, which is why we got a temporary bounce. But then after bouncing, the market got a big rejection again, and we're still showing weakness. So it's all about the levels, right? If SPY could reclaim 636, there is a chance we end up retesting 638. And if that is reclaimed, we could be bouncing again. But if we can't hold above at least 636, SPY is going to be at risk of dipping to 633. So you want to be very careful. We're still showing weakness, and there is a risk of us retesting this low right here from August 21st. So for now, SPY is still showing weakness, so be very careful, guys. Looking at the daily time frame, this is also a very weak daily looking candlestick. That would also suggest more downside. I also want to add that we have this gap down here to fill, so that would take us all the way down towards these lower levels. If we end up getting some kind of rejection, so there's a lot of gaps below on SPY, and on the 4-hour time frame, we're below 636, which would be favoring 633 soon. So there's still weakness on SPY. Please keep that in mind. The weakness perpetuates, and the bears have a bigger edge. Now, unless we get back above 636, I could change my mind, but for the time being, the bears have a bigger edge. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. On the QQQ, we're basically looking for the 560 area. This is down a bit more than SPY, but 560s are support. If that fails us, I could see us retest 558. If we hold 560, though, we could try to bounce for 562. So watch those levels. I think we retest 560 flats, and we'll see if it holds. If not, we're going down to 558 on the triple Q. On the IWM, we're also rejecting. We need to get back above 234. If not, we're looking for 231. That's going to be our range, 231 to 234. But if 231 fails us, we could be dipping more. I think we retest 231. If it doesn't hold, we're dipping all the way down to 230. Then potentially lower levels like 227 become possible. So for now, the bears have a bigger edge. On ES, we're rejecting right here. We need to reclaim 6,400 to turn bullish. If we don't, we're going to be favoring 63, 65 or below. So ES has some downside risk. NQ needs to get back above essentially 23,250. If it doesn't hold, we could be dipping all the way down to 23,000 flats or below. On Bitcoin, we're looking decent. I do want to give you guys a warning though, because on the smaller time frames, this is rejecting a little bit. It could retest around 110,500. We'll see if we bounce off that, but there might be a little bit of downside before some buyers try to defend. But Bitcoin's still holding up decently. Tesla's barely holding this trend line right here on the 30 minutes time frame, and on the 4-hour. What's going to happen is if we don't hold this trend line, we're basically going to be retesting 325. So 325 and 327 are going to be our two supports. But if they break, we could be dumping back down to about 319. So we want to be very careful. Nvda is on a downtrend. Unless we get back above 169, we're going to be favoring 165 or below. There is downside risk. On Appl, we're also looking kind of weak right here. We're going to be likely dipping back down to like 225. So be careful. Unless we end up holding 228, we're still favoring downside. For AMD, we're showing weakness. We're technically range bound between 162 and 157. I could see 157 being retested. If that fails us, we could be dipping a lot more. But the downside risk is still there. Coinbase has resistance at 306 and support down here at 300. We're technically in a range, but I could see us basically retesting 300 flat. It's just range bound, not really doing a whole lot. Amazon, however, is looking bearish. We're looking at support at 222. If it doesn't hold, there's going to be a risk of 220, then 218. There's downside risk on Amazon. Meta is showing some weakness. Unless we hold above 731, we're going to be favoring essentially 722 or below. The downside risk is still there. Google's going to likely retest 206 and then basically the low 200s. I see some downside risk as well. And Microsoft could be dipping back down to 500. If it doesn't hold, we're going to be looking for essentially 495. Once again, there is downside risk on Microsoft. The VIX, however, looks more bullish. We have a nice looking double bottom here, and we have this gap to fill. So we're going to see if this rallies back up to the 20s. So give this the time it needs. But in correlation, right, the VIX could be pumping a lot more because of the S&P 500 dumping more, and that's why there is some downside risk. We're seeing it on the charts, and then that's just another confluence to look at. The downside risk is there, so be careful, guys. We'll see if SPY can reclaim 636. If we don't, I do think we're gonna retest 633, and I think there's still some downside risk in this market. So be careful, guys. Market is looking weak. Until we get another update, I'll keep you guys informed about what else is about to happen. Until then, watch your levels and be very, very patient. And I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.